power of you controlling your breathing right now. Feel the power of you enjoying your greatest gift right now. That's you. That's your presence. That's your greatest power. Your power to determine to stay in the present, in the now, and be your true great being that you are. No matter what. In this present moment, everything is here you need right now. So let's see ourselves today doing the best we can.
Morning, guys. You can control the power of your mind with determination. You know, when I wake up in the morning, I feel the energy of my one word. When I say the word determination, it means so much to me. As you know, it's become my purpose. It's become my very essence, my very being. It was always there. I just know it now, and it's my life purpose. It means making a determination means deciding. It means never giving up until it's done. You have your purpose in you. You have a truth principle that we're all made up of, which all converges all onto one thing anyhow. And all you need to do is find yours. Or if you don't even know yours, I want you to know you're already living your purpose. You know, you giving me your attention here, you have no idea how much it's helping me. I am so grateful. So wherever you are, you can control the power of your mind with your purpose. Have a great day, everybody.
People think they have to know how. I call it the tyranny of how. Like, you get all excited, I'm gonna do this, and then your brain goes, I've never done it before. Oh my God, what did I say? I don't know how to do this. And they tend to focus on how to do it. And when you start with how, you're screwed. Like, Martin Luther King had no idea how when he did his I Have a Dream speech. In fact, his wife was the one that pushed him because he was uncertain, right? If you know the real history, it's pretty interesting. But the bottom line is he gets up there and he gives his vision of how it can be done. He talked about what needs to happen and why. If you can figure out what you want and why you want it, and you get strong enough reasons that'll drive you late at night, it'll get you up early in the morning, and the reasons are different. Some people do it for nitty-gritty reasons. Jim Rohn used to say, because some guy told him he borrowed money from this finance company, I forget the name of HFC Finance, whatever the hell it was, and he hadn't been back since he borrowed the money, So they're calling him. In those days, they could harass you in ways they can't today, right? They call him, show up, and embarrass him in front of his neighbors. And so Jim Rohn, his first real chunk of money, he told me he made because it's like he set this goal. It was his nitty-gritty reason. His reason to get rich was so he could go down and pay this thing off. And he said he went to the bank and got it all in cash and in small bills, and he bolted into this little HFC, finance place. And the guy who borrowed the money was the fourth best back. And he said, I walked up there, I opened up this brief, and I dumped all the money all over his desk in small bills. And I said, count it, it's all there, I will never be back. He said he was startled because I hadn't been there since I borrowed the money, right? But he did it for nitty-gritty. Some people do it for their kid. Some people will do it, we'll almost all do it for something more than ourselves. Some people do it because they like winning, right? I know that about you. Right? It's like, I like winning. I like being the best at what I do. So I'm not going to settle for less than that. Why would I? Right? So you got to find your reasons. But if you know what you want and you get a big enough why, now you'll figure out how to do it. But if you start with how, the small brain, the fear brain, goes, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do 90% of the time either. I know what and why, and then I try something. It doesn't work. I try something else. Now I speed it up by learning from the best. So that's why, Money Master the Game is a perfect example. My companies, at the time were $100 million companies. I had one $500 million company. Now we're doing $7 billion. I took what I learned from these guys. I applied it not only to my investing, I applied it to my own businesses. Why do I reinvent the wheel when I just learned from the best on earth? I mean, somebody's that good can tell you that little 2 millimeter thing that changes everything. So my life is really about learn from the best, but I don't start with the how. I start with the what and the why. And I think that's the mistake most people make.
Tony Robbins. Okay, guys, look. 4 W's. 4 of the most important questions you can ask yourself. It's the 4 W's. Who am I? Or at least who do I want to become? What do I want? Why do I want it? And when? So let's go with the why, because he said start with your why. I want to go a little bit deeper than your why. Because if you know your why, you can figure out any how. You've heard that before. But what's the why behind the why? And then what's the why behind that why? Because if you can figure that out, you would never quit. Because you have a reason deep down inside of you that would not allow you to quit, because you're connected to why you must make this happen. And then why that why must happen. That's going to be your deep, deep, deep inspiration and motivation and determination. So figuring out your why, you figure out the how once you know your why. So that's it. Let's go.
just all energy there. Okay, Zane.
It's Tony Robbins, man. It's Tony Robbins.
Yeah, I think the why really boils down to getting clarity around what it is that you're going after. A lot of times we feel like we need to have the how, but the how is actually a series of imperfect actions taken toward that why.
That's good. Say it again. That was good. The imperfect. Say that. That's good.
But the how is a series of imperfect actions that take you toward the why.
Y'all need to write that down.
So-
That's good. That's good stuff.
Wait, what did he just say?
That's what I said. Y'all need to write. Y'all need to write it down. So I had to repeat it because it was so good. Write that down. Rewind us, because that'll help for the analytics. Rewind us, and then write down what he just said. All right, continue on, Drew. My bad. It was good. Though. What?
At the end of the day, a lot of times the thing that you think is going to move you in the direction of getting closer towards your dreams will ultimately yield not the answer that you thought it was. And by getting that feedback and taking that imperfect action to give you the feedback to take a different action and pivot in a slightly different direction to ultimately get to your why, is ultimately going to be how you get there. Obviously, if you have other people who have done the thing that you've done and model them, it can speed up the process of getting closer to your why. But a lot of times the path to the end goal, the success that you desire, is just a matter of failing forward and creating multiple outcomes along the way.
Yeah.
Looked like Zane wanted to get back in there.
No, it's good. It's good.
You just-
I like look WHY. Get 3 people and it's 3 letters. WHY. I just thought that was cool.
Okay, go for it.
All right, so your why is one of the big reasons why I wrote Built to Serve. It was the number one question people get asked me. It's like, how do I find my purpose? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? Why? Well, figuring out your why is not as difficult as everybody makes it out to seem. It's your why is your purpose, and your purpose comes from your pain. So wherever you felt the most pain in life, emotional pain as a human, when did you feel the most worthless? Your why is to help other people not struggle and suffer as much as you did. And
What was the original title of the book? Was some why in there? Your who, your
Start
why,
with
your how.
why.
The original. See, why was in there. The original title of the book.
the original title of the book was Who I Have, because that's the process I guide people through. But we changed it to Built to Serve because people couldn't remember the order of Who I Have, so Built to Serve was a more memorable title. But it still boils down to you want to serve, you want to feel like the work you do every day matters, and the people who you'll love to serve the most are the people who you see yourself in. A younger you. It doesn't have to be younger age, but younger on the path. You struggled with something, and then you see somebody struggling with the exact same thing that you struggled with, and you want to help them. And that is in all of us. We all want to wake up and feel like we're going to do something that matters today. If you are stuck on the how to get something done, then it's not that you don't have a why, it's just that the why is not important enough in that moment to you. If we're sitting here making videos, it's easy enough to get caught up on the how. We've trained ourselves enough, on things like this to not get stuck on it. We could say, well, we don't have the gear and the microphone and the lighting and how are we gonna fit 3 people in here, and we're in a hotel room and it's not sophisticated, and like all of this stuff that could easily block action. And we just decided we're gonna go do it. But if I ever need an extra boost, then I remind myself of why I'm doing it. And so, tomorrow or Tuesday, I'm gonna be, you're the reason why. You're the reason why. Yeah, not just talking to the camera, but talking to humans on the other side. We're a part of your community and appreciate that. And so if I'm going to speak on stage, you say yes, it's a big opportunity. We're here at an event in Vegas, and I'm going to be speaking at. And it's me and Gary Vee and Alex Mosley, and David, and some awesome entrepreneurs. If I get nervous and go on stage, then I remember back to the why. Why am I doing this? Well, because I've got a message that those guys don't have. And if I can touch a few people here in this room, and I'm wrong, then it's worth it. And if I can connect back to that why, then it gives me the courage to then go do the thing. And so the how doesn't become the problem anymore. So if you saw us, if we were filming like the setup of this, I'm trying to figure out if we have a tripod, use tripod, didn't work properly, didn't have the right adjustment. Zan pulling apart lampshades and turning rings upside down, take things apart, trying to make something work. We've got a table, we take out the table, we're throwing chairs together, we're making whatever, like we're not gonna stop on the how, we're gonna get into action mode. And if that's where you feel slow right now, like how, the how needs to be figured out.
And it will be.
And it will be when you get into a state of resourcefulness.
Yes.
And you get that state of resourcefulness by remembering how important that why is for you, that this has to get done.
Morning, guys. Today in our top 10 rules for success, Jack Ma shares his first rule, and this is a huge one. He says, get used to rejection. And he's a guy who exemplified and personified this. He went through so many different rejections in getting to where he is now. One of the things he said is he got rejected from Harvard 10 times, and then his attitude was, I should go teach there. That's the spirit. That's what the spirit we want to capture. We want to get used to rejection. We want to get used to failure only in the sense that we're adding it to our fuel and desire to learn from it and eventually get to where we want to be, to show that determination. And we all have it in us. So learn from Jack Ma, learn from all the greats that we're reading about. It's all up to you. So the way you look at your failure is going to determine whether or not you get to where you want to get to. Have a great day, everybody.
You don't deserve that. Who do you think you are, young man? The child under 7 isn't thinking, oh, I'm not doing well, but I'll do better and my father will be happy. I say, no, a child under 7, not thinking, recording. I do not deserve. I am not lovable. I am not worthy. You can reprogram the subconscious mind. Instead of disempowering programs, you put in empowering programs. You put in wishes and desires as a program. Oh, I'm so sorry I made you work hard there, Evan.
Bruce Lipton, welcome aboard. Great to have you. Man, I've interviewed some big names on my channel. We've had people like Matthew McConaughey and Tony Robbins on 3 times, and people have sold their businesses for $1 billion. But your content is probably what I've spent the most time on prepping for any interview I've done on my channel.
Oh, I'm so sorry I made you work hard there, Evan.
No, it's been amazing. It's been such a rabbit hole to dive down in. And here's my struggle. My heart and my soul agrees with you and loves everything you're making. my brain is struggling to catch up to some of the science behind it. And I know you're a scientist as your background. Is that actually a common thing when you're talking to people? It's like it feels right, but they can't make logical sense of it yet?
When I do speak with them, I hope I translate it so that they understand what I'm talking about. Otherwise, I'm wasting their time and my time. So over the years, I think I've gotten it down to public speak, from scientific. When I first wrote my book, The Biology of Belief, the first part of the manuscript, got halfway done, and I thought, I'm just going to give it to some friends to see how it's working. And I gave it to some people to look at, and then I never saw them again. And I had to chase them down. And when I got to them, they said, well, Bruce, we didn't want to tell you. We didn't understand a damn word what the hell you were writing there, because I was using my scientific, language from the lab. And I realized, oh my God, I can't write a book using the science. I have to turn it into everyday speak, which took a little bit of time, but it did and happened. And it's pretty understandable at this point, because the significance is knowledge is power. Without this knowledge that I'm talking about, you certainly don't have the full power that a human has in creating the world that they live in.
Well, I love the effort and consistency that you're creating to show up and make content, whether it's the interviews or the full-on lectures or the fun on your YouTube channel with your nephew doing all these different skits. Is like any way possible to try to get the message out. I appreciate everything that you're creating.
Well, this is why I'm here with you, Evan, because I also appreciate what you're creating. And I mean, really, for me, this is the opportunity to speak to your audience. While I talk to you directly, I know we have a following out there. And so you are really supporting what I'm trying to do, but you're doing what you're doing is what I want to support you doing, because the idea is until we wake up, this nightmare is going to continue. And it is a nightmare. The current world's global chaos, I mean, there's so much upheaval going on everywhere that there's no country that doesn't have some upheaval experiencing right now. And there's a reason for it, and there's an understanding, and all of a sudden it takes the mystery out, makes sense out of it, and all of a sudden says, oh yeah, I can thrive through this time period because I know what's going on. Knowledge is power. That's what it comes down to. Let's say the same thing, but maybe more relevant to listeners, is a lack of knowledge is a lack of power. And the public has been systematically deprived of some very important, powerful knowledge that could change their lives. Again, it's like the media is controlled. Do they want you to be empowered? Who are they? I don't know. I'll just tell you. I use an excerpt from Michael Moore's movie called Sicko, and there's a parliamentarian, Tony Benn, a very liberal parliamentarian in London, and he just straight looks in the camera and says, governments do not want a healthy, intelligent population because they're difficult to control. And I go, wow, I'm old enough, to have been here when the United States was actually something people wanted to live up to. When years ago, I'm near 80, but I'm still enjoying it. But if I go back 70 years or so, and I can tell you, we lived in a different world at that time. The U.S. was a leader in virtually every field, whether it was just the infrastructure of the country, the technology that we developed, the government and the freedoms that we had at that time. And I go, today, this is not the same country anymore. And it's been taken over by corporate interests. And corporations just see us as customers, and they manipulate the world that we're in. And it's an unfortunate situation because people have lost their power and corporations have usurped that power. So, I give you a simple thing. We're supposed to be in a democracy. And I go, well, what is that? And I go, well, hey, the public was asked, do you want background checks on people before they buy a gun? 90% said yes, and the government voted it down. I go, well, then who the hell are they representing? I go, the NRA. They're not representing us. And all of a sudden, people don't realize that this government is bought and paid for, and we're just the victims of the programming that we accept this and go, oh, this is the way life is. I go, no, this is the way life is being made. And you go, what do you mean being made? And then I go, So it's important to let's go right back to ground zero here. And ground zero is this: quantum physics is the most valid science on this planet. And principle number one from 1927, principle number one, consciousness is creating our life experiences. Now, Max Planck, one of the founding fathers of quantum physics, wrote that in 1927. He wrote, "The mind is the matrix of all matter." This is where the movie The Matrix got its title from. The mind is the matrix. The mind is the creator of all matter. That's exactly what the whole idea was. And the idea, well, this is absolutely true, except people don't recognize that we have also been programmed. And this is what the Matrix movie is about. You're in a program. And I go, yes, we are. We're living a program because your mind, just think about it. I tell you, your mind is creating this world. And I say, well, look around at this world. Do you want to own that you've created this? And go, no, I don't want to do that. That world is crazy. I go, yeah, because the idea that your programs can control your life, well, that's not a new idea. That's 400 years old. The Jesuits would tell their followers, give me a child until it is 7 and I will show you the man. People didn't even understand what the hell they were really meaning by it, but the truth is simply this. Just before birth through age 7 is a programming period for the brain. It needs program. It's a computer. Computer doesn't work without a program. Once the programs are in, then you could add your data and then work with the program. But you get the programs first. And I go, well, the Jesuits knew this. The Jesuits knew that whatever programs you have in the first 7 years, that's the programming period. Actually, they say that the rest of your life will be that program. And they knew what we now know, and that is 95% of your life is not coming from your creative wishes and desires mind matrix. It's coming from the subconscious programs. So you're not living your life, you're living the program. And so this is exactly what the Jesuits said. Give me a child until 7 and I will show you the man, meaning if you give me the first 7 years to program, I'll show you the rest of the life of that man. And it was like, wow, that was really brilliant. And yet it's been manipulating us for 400 years, because once they understood, if you can program the first 7, you own the rest of that person's life, they created something called Catholic school. And they program people to have this Catholic belief system in the first 7 years, so that the rest of their lives, even if they don't want to go to church or not, the belief system is whatever that program was in the first 7 years. And I go, well, this is a fact for 400 years. Yes, we are programmed in the first 7 years. What people are not paying attention to is the programming has gotten much more sophisticated than when the Jesuits saw it 400 years ago. You see an infant who can barely walk carrying an iPad around. You have to recognize, well, there's some hell of a program going on right there. So yeah, we've been programmed. 95% of our life comes from the program. These are scientific facts. And that, unfortunately, when we play a program, we're playing it because we're not paying attention. That's why the automatic programming from the subconscious steps in. It's like autopilot. If we're thinking, then the conscious mind, which is creative mind, is not looking out the windshield, so to speak, like your body's a vehicle. And we're driving. I say, who's the driver? I say, the conscious mind. I go, where's it driving us to? Wishes and desires. That's where we want to go. I go, that's great. And then I said, but what if the conscious mind's thinking? I go, uh-oh, why? Because to pay attention, you look out the window. But thinking is inside. So the moment you are in thought, you're not looking out the window. I say, oh, this could be very critical. You're driving the car and all of a sudden you start thinking, then your conscious mind is not looking out the window. You're going to be a hell of a lot of trouble. I go, the subconscious mind is autopilot. It steps in. So whenever we're thinking, the conscious mind lets go of the vision, is inside seeking whatever. And while that mind is thinking, the behavior that is playing is coming from programs that we got before age 7. And since 95% of our life is the amount of time we spend thinking, then 95% of your life is actually coming from your programs and not coming from your creative wishes and desires.
Good morning, guys. I'm going to borrow from Les Brown today. Again, one of my favorite guys in terms of having fun, as he's and still on the path to infinite mind wealth, but he's an incredible human being. So I remember Les Brown describing Murphy's Law, and it's basically the law that says anything that can happen will happen. So anything bad that could potentially happen will happen. This is life. We all are going to feel pain, rejection, all these negative things. But I love his attitude. And there was one moment where he was describing, or in his speech, he was talking about all these things that would happen. You know, people are afraid to start because this and this will happen. And then eventually he got to a point in his speech where he says, will I get hurt? Yes, you will get hurt. And the way he said it, of course, I don't do Les Brown justice, but yes, we will get hurt, but we got to laugh at it. It's life, you know, it's going to happen to all of us. Have a great day, everybody.
Most people, unless your parents are exorbitantly wealthy and have achieved everything that you wish to achieve, I don't think you should listen to your parents. And so one of my first rules of life is never to listen to someone who's poorer than you or poorer than you want to be. So that's two different caveats there, because you might be younger and it's like, okay, well, yeah, my parents have more money than me, but like, are they poorer than you want to be? If so, then only listen to people who are wealthier than you want to be. And the thing is that they always will side on the side of being less risky. And here's why. Because when you naysay, if someone's like, oh, I don't like your girlfriend. And the thing is that if you date in general, then fundamentally every single person that you date, except for the one that you marry, is going to be somebody who you're not going to be with. And if someone says, I don't think this person's good, then they will be right literally 99% of the time, except for the one time that matters. Kind of interesting. And so the thing is most businesses fail. 95% of businesses fail within 5 years. And so most times they are correct. And so it's very easy for them to self-reinforce that they are so smart and they're always right. And they can tell you, I told you so. But the reality is that they are wrong in the 1% of times that it matters in your life.
Need motivation?
Watch the top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle.
But you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best.
So today, let's learn from one of the best, Alex Hormozi, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy.
When I think about this, what's interesting is that like the only way that is guaranteed to not get to success is to never take the risk to begin with, right? That's the guaranteed way of not achieving it. And I remember when I was quitting my job, that was the biggest conclusion that I came to, was that I was not happy at my current earning level, and that the only job, because there was one position, one job that made enough money that I wanted, which was being an investment banker. So the best investment bankers can make $10, $20 million a year. But I knew what it was required to get there and the amount of effort, time, and sacrifice. And I was like, the only people who will pay me that amount of money will be making so much more money off of me and literally draining my life that I don't think it's, because like usually if you become an investment banker that's successful, you pretty much donate 20 years of your life in order to do that. And you're really never going to see your family and all that kind of stuff. And for me, that was not a trade-off I wanted to make. And so I figured there was no job that was going to pay me what I wanted to make and afford me the lifestyle that I wanted. And so the path that I was on was guaranteed to not get me to where I wanted to go. And so even though it was micro risky, it was macro the only way I could do it, right? And so that's one of those things actually like from Gary Vee that he says, micro speed, macro patience, right? Money loves speed, wealth loves time. And so if we're trying to build wealth, we're trying to build an asset, right? Then we need to have time. One of my other favorite sayings that I'll share with you is you get paid for what you do, you get returns on what you own. Right? And so anyways, back to the reason why you shouldn't listen to other people is that they don't have an accurate understanding of risk, right? And the biggest risk is not doing anything at all. The biggest risk is never dating, not that you're with this person, right? And so Warren Buffett said, and I like this, he said, most people only need to make 4 or 5 really good decisions in their life. So think about that for a second, because I think about, like, that one really shook me, because I think about all the decisions that I make every single day, right? And all the decisions that I've made in my life. And there's really not that many of them that have been the biggest levers, but the few that have been massive and enormous levers in my life. And most people don't take enough time to think about those decisions that are the massive forks in the road. Am I going to keep going in this position? Do I want to live in this city? Am I going to marry this girl? Who am I going to get into business with? What are we going to do? right? What are we actually going to do in this business? And so people don't put enough thought into that stuff and spend all their time thinking about what next show they're going to watch on Netflix, right? Rather than thinking like, I'm going to take some time with this decision. Because one of my other sayings is mistakes love a rushed decision, right? So micro speed, macro patience. If you're looking at playing long, then you have to understand, or at least this is my 2 cents on it, is that most people will oppose you at all times. And that is because it is safer for them to do so, because they will be right most of the times. But on the 1% of times that they are wrong, it's that 1% decision saying that you're going to buy See's candies for $25 million and ends up generating $1 billion, right, in revenue. It's that one decision that they're going to miss out on. And that's the one decision that matters. And so they are 99% of the time right, but they're 100% wrong. Right? And so that's the only message that I wanted to really drive home, is that if you have parents who make less money than you want to make, if you have friends who make less money than you want to make, I had so many people who told me that everything I was doing was stupid. I was giving up a really good consulting job to open a gym, right? I took all my savings and sunk it into a business. And you know what? That business wasn't the one that set me free. It was four or five businesses from there. But I learned the skills that one by one, I was able to assemble on a belief standpoint of the world with the character traits to reinforce them to eventually yield the success that some people think is, cool.
Rule number 2, study wealth.
I started studying wealth after I became wealthy. So
what did you learn about it afterwards? And what do wealthy people do that you think poor people don't do?
They pick higher leverage opportunities, in a sentence. So rich dad, poor dad, poor dad says get a job. Poor dad says get a higher paying job. Rich dad says and the thing is, there's so many innate beliefs that seem commonplace. Well, of course. You know what I mean? Well, of course, you buy some real estate and, it'll appreciate over time. Of course, you invest in some stocks. Yeah, of course. But poor dads just don't say that. And so you have to learn that, I think. And I didn't, so I'm grateful in that I didn't have to learn that, because I heard that just was, of course, yeah, once you have some money, of course you don't spend your whole income. Of course you don't. And so there's a lot of course you don'ts that I think I inherited just by being a saving father. But there's also some upper middle class people who don't save anything. So
right.
But I think my dad did I think he helped a lot with money hygiene. I think I've had a lot of really good money hygiene from my dad. The big breakthrough that I had for me was when I stopped focusing on, and this is going to sound backwards, but when I started my gyms, I was all about building the business, right? And when I built the biggest companies that I've had and now recently sold, and now we have our portfolio, it was about how do we make the most money? And I know that sounds completely backwards, but the only way that you can make the most money is to provide an exceptional valued service and charge a ton of money for it. And because I optimized around making money, I started going for low capital expense businesses, because I had lost everything after that 5-year stint. Mm-hmm. And so I was never again am I going to reinvest every dollar from the business back into the business, because I've lost it before. So when I started the next business, and every business I've had thereafter, we take dividends every month. And we do that because
you don't wait till there's an exit 10 years later.
No,
and put all your money in.
I'd love to do both.
Yeah.
Why not both?
Sure.
Right? And so that was
take a dividend and get a bigger
payout.
Yeah. But not just put money in and wait and get no money back.
100%. And the thing is, and this was a fallacy I had, because people always talk about reinvesting in their business, but I realized that just meant that they weren't making profit. And so the vast majority of businesses, even the software world is somewhat shifting in this, but they want to see profit. And then even better is if you have net free cash flow, which is just a fancy word for the amount of money that you can take out every month after making necessary investments in the business. And so I wanted to have businesses that pumped cash flow because I had lost it all before. And so I think there's a lot of, every one of my business seasons, I would say I've had 3 business seasons. I had my gym ownership period. I had my turnaround and early gym launch day period. And then I had Prestige Labs, the licensing business in Allen. That was my last season.
Where you exited all of them.
Yeah. And then I'd say now we're in our 3rd season, I guess. So brick and mortar gyms, licensing, supplements, and software.
Yeah.
And then, 3rd season is what we have now. And each of those has a huge magnitude of leverage that was added to it. And so, this Gym Launch was started on accident, in that I was this might be a way that I could make money.
Rule number 3, develop good skills.
You absolutely just need skills. You can have nothing else in your life. And a beautiful thing is that no government can take it from you. No person can take your skills from you in a divorce. Those are always your own, which is something that, I don't know, for some reason feels magical to me. And so one of the things that I've seen as I've kind of, moved up, I'm not saying that arrogantly, just developed, progressed, whatever, is that the people who I surround myself with now have more money than the people that I surrounded myself when I was early on in my career. And what's ironic is that these people actually spend less money. they have less desire to spend money, and they find ways to acquire things for less money out of pocket. And that's always really interesting to me. And so
We end. Well, quote unquote, we never really end. We now focus on our breathing. Back straight, eyes closed, legs crossed. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Feel that power that you're using to control your breathing. It's your connection to oneness, to what we all really are, to the truth. The ultimate truth. That you were born to win control over your mind. That when we all do that,